Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are tonight on a Tuesday night, and we're doing something a lot different. We're not doing our usual Battle World series. Instead, got a really special guest, someone that I'm so psyched to be able to chat to. I've got Cody Leach here. Cody, I said this backstage and we talked a little bit, but again, thank you so much for taking some time to hang out with us here tonight, man.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate the invite.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. For you guys in the chat, just to give you guys a blanket hello, really nice to see everyone here. I see a lot of our regulars, Death Central, Jerry's in the house. Sarah, thank you so much for being here too, Sarah, helping out with modding. I think Polar's in the chat too. Um, we got JT in the chat saying, "Hey, Nightwatch, I'm a new subscriber to your channel, longtime fan of Cody. Looking forward to this interview." All right. Very cool. From South Australia. That is awesome, man. Seriously.
Good
Thank you
day.
so much. Yeah, right? I know. Mr. Dan, my man, what's up, brother? Good to see you. And Polar. She's a huge fan of yours, Cody. She's been geeking out about
Thank
this
you.
for like a week. It's very cool. Uh, that's awesome stuff. Lady Luna, what's going on? My man Jason, my brother from Backtrack Cinema, what's going on, man? Good to see you. And everyone else. Katie's in the chat too. Thank you guys for being here. Well, we're going to get going into this because I know Cody's got a lot of stuff going on. And Dino, what's up to you as well? You guys can leave your questions in the live chat for us. I'll try to get to some of them. Obviously, if it's highlighted or a super chat, you definitely will get front of the line preference. But Cody, let's just start with this, man. And I have a lot of questions. I find myself when I'm doing these interviews, it's almost being a little selfish. But and I've heard some of these things from you, but just for these folks, can you take us back to your beginnings of
hmm
starting YouTube, what that was like and what was the reasoning behind it? And I know I've heard of some of your journey and struggles, but just to kind of lay it out there if you could.
Yeah, so it was like summer 2016 and I was working a construction job. It was construction materials testing. So if they had like a plot of land or a house lot or even swamps and woods that they were going to plan to build something on, they would send us
Mhm.
out to do soil testing. So I'd run drill rigs, I would do um permeation testing, seeing how water permeable the soil is, all this stuff to give them an idea of what the soil conditions are, what they need to do to actually build on it. And this job
Mhm.
required a lot of driving, like minimum 2-3 hours a day. There were some days where I would drive 4 hours to a job site, work, drive 4 hours back. And so I spent a
Wow.
lot of time, yeah, a lot of time on the road. And, I love my music, but after a while, the same songs, the same playlists, the same band started to get really tiresome when you're listening to music that much during the day. So then I started switching over a
Mhm.
lot to, I started switching over a lot to like podcasts and listening to YouTube
Mhm.
videos, like the audio only versions and stuff. And so you'd have like Collider Movie Talk, which was AMC Movie Talk, and Double Toasted and channels like this. And I found myself after a while really wanting to like join the conversation to where I'm like yelling at my radio whenever they're talking about specific topics or whatever. And so one day, just kind of
Right,
on a
right.
whim, I went on Amazon. I bought a little $20 desk mic, little pop filter, and I started recording a podcast in my apartment's walk-in closet like a weirdo. I would just kind of huddle in the corner when my wife was out in the other room, and I'm talking to myself. And I did that for a few months, and I noticed that really the only people that were subscribing or listening was like family members and friends. And I was really
Yeah.
intimidated with YouTube because I didn't have any experience with video editing or cameras or lighting or anything. So I was like, I don't really want to dive
Mhm.
into all that. This is so easy, a little microphone, and I just go. And then after a while, it just felt like there wasn't going to be any growth there. So I, again, just kind of on a whim one day, bought a camera, bought a green screen, paid for Adobe, shot it's only like a 6-7 minute review, maybe even shorter than that, like a
Mhm.
5 minute review of Sausage Party of all movies to start with. And
Oh,
locked
wow.
myself, yeah, locked myself in my room for basically that entire Saturday and taught myself Photoshop and Premiere Pro, at least enough to get a video out. And that was
Okay.
kind of the start of it. I think I'm the only person on planet Earth that could say that Sausage Party changed their life. But I
Yeah,
started off my
right.
channel. I started off my channel with that and made the classic mistake of wanting to do everything. So I wanted to do reviews, I wanted to
Mm,
do rankings, I wanted to do top fives, I wanted to do the movie news show, the video game news show. And so I
mm,
would record at night, take my laptop with me to work, and days where there was a lot of sitting around and waiting, which any day that I did that water permeation test, it's like 3 hours of just watching water drip. I would sit there and I would edit in my truck
oh,
while the test was going on. And this was
mm,
also the time that Movie Pass dropped that whole like $10 to see any movie you want every single day thing. And so I started taking advantage of that.
yeah,
And
okay.
the first probably 4 or 5 months of my channel was kind of that, just figuring out what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until I
Mhm,
just uh, it was coming close. It was just past October, and I had planned on doing a Halloween review series because a few of those movies I hadn't even seen at that point back in 2016. And so I wanted to
mhm,
do a review series of that. Then my daughter was born. So that plan went out the window. And I
mm,
still had this itch to talk about horror because pretty much all my life, nobody ever really talked about horror. None of my friends watched
mm,
horror. It was just me, my dad
right.
to a certain degree. It kind of felt like this weird niche that I was just me. It was my own little world. And
Mhm,
so I did a video for the couple hundred subscribers that I had at the time saying, "Do you want me to do Freddy or Michael or Jason? What do you want to do first?" Freddy won, which ironically is my favorite horror icon. And then
yep,
I started my Nightmare on Elm Street review series, and suddenly I felt the engagement go up. I felt the views go up. It felt like I was opened up to this whole new world of people I didn't even know existed. Like, it's not just me watching these movies. This is awesome. And so
right, right.
that kind of had me pivot my channel a little bit to where, I still do a little of everything. I still try to review as much as possible and talk about all genres, especially after going full time. But I
Mhm.
definitely made that little shift going more towards horror and kind of found my voice going that direction.
Wow, man. That's absolutely crazy. It's funny how you said that, being in a small little space, kind of hiding out from your wife. It made me think of one of the first times I ever recorded a video. I was like, we have a long hallway, and I tried to be as far away, from Corey and the kids, and I recorded something, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. It didn't sound right. I didn't say what I wanted to say, and it's just funny
Mhm,
how you go from those moments to where you eventually land. Um, Let me just say too, I think what's cool about your channel, at least for me as a viewer, is you do horror, but you do get out of that box.
mhm,
To me, at a pretty good rate because I absolutely love hearing you talking about the Mission Impossible series.
mhm.
Because I love that franchise, and I haven't
Oh, yeah.
gotten a chance to talk about it myself here, which, hopefully I will at some point, but, I'm definitely a lot more focused on the horror. Um, Actually, let me just ask you a quick question about that right now. Now, obviously, it did not perform as well in the box office as they expected. Do you have
Mhm.
any particular opinions on why that was? Because I really did enjoy Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Oh, I did too. It might be my favorite movie of the year so far. It's either number 1 or number 2. Um, I
Nice.
just feel like it's a weird year. Last year and
Mhm.
this year is kind of like the ripple effect from 2020 and 2021 not having much. So they're just kind of like these extra packed years of 2022 and 2023 trying to get out all the stuff that was delayed and shelved and pushed back because of the
Yes.
pandemic. Last year, I think, benefited very heavily from that because last year was one of the best years of horror specifically in a very long time. This year kind of feels like it
Mhm.
got the short end of the stick. It drew the short straw and got a lot of the mediocre movies that was left into that pile. And this is a weird year to
Hmm.
where it felt like since March till just a few weeks ago, every week was a major release, like no breaks.
Yes.
And
Right.
especially the summertime, it was a lot of big blockbusters. And unfortunately, most of
Mhm.
them didn't turn out to be all that great. They were either just okay, they were mediocre, or they weren't that they
Right.
didn't really latch into the audience very much. So I think it was for Mission Impossible, I think it was two things. It was one, being at the tail end of an entire summer season that felt like every major movie is just not doing it for everybody. And so after The
Right.
Flash, after Indiana Jones, after whatever else came out
Mhm.
for Blue Beetle, which I actually enjoyed, a bunch of movies that just did not perform. That was stuck at the end of it, and by then people were just burnt out. They're like, I don't even care. Just no more blockbusters for me. And that's why you see something
Right,
like Barbie,
right.
Oppenheimer that were the big performers of the summer, and it's just like, how does that happen? That's weird. And then the
Right.
the other part of it is that it feels like nowadays too, partially because of Marvel and partially just because of the way that generations change and how we kind of consume media. A lot of people, I don't feel like wanted to do the homework to go check out Dead Reckoning because it's the eighth film in a franchise, even though it's an awesome franchise and all eight of them are movies you should check out if you're an action fan. There was a
Mm.
lot of younger people that are like,
Mhm.
well, how many movies do I got to watch to understand this? Nope, I'll wait. And so I think it was a duel of both of those, unfortunately, which shocked me because I figured after the huge success of Fallout, both critically and financially, and then
Mm.
the same thing with Top
Top
Gun,
Gun
I would
too.
have
Yeah.
yeah, I would have put all my chips into Dead Reckoning being one of the top performers of the year. So it was a weird one.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the hype was huge for it. I mean, I was constantly seeing, just so much promotion for it. And of course, we got a sneak peek of, one of the big stunt scenes and all of that type of stuff. And I was totally hyped up for it because I thought Fallout, man, I'm telling you, I mean, I don't want to, geek out too much about it, but Fallout, I've watched that movie so many times and it just is such a beautiful movie to watch.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
so many cool things and I love the whole franchise. But coming off the heels of Fallout and obviously, like you said, you got Top Gun and all of this um goodwill as far as Tom Cruise and everything. I really was surprised to see how it underperformed. And I've heard that for Dead Reckoning Part 2 that it's been delayed, and they might even
Yeah, they
change the
delayed it to
title of it. I don't
2025.
Yeah, it's like a whole year.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about the title. That's interesting because I don't know if
Mhm.
there's time to go and change all the posters and all the Blu-rays that have been printed and scratch that part 1 off of there. That could
That's
have been
yeah.
part of it too, because I'll be honest with you, that was the only reservation I had about Mission Impossible was that last year and this year we've had a number of part 1s that
Mhm.
feel
That's
like they
right.
just stop. There's no resolution, there's no climax, there's no satisfied feeling at the end of the story. It's just like, see you in 2 years.
Right,
And this
right.
was the only movie of all of them to me in the last 2 years that actually felt like one story, and some things that can
Yes.
carry over to a part 2 that we obviously wanna see, but I walked out feeling satisfied. So maybe that was part of it
Yes.
too. Some people were like, "Okay, after Spider-Verse, after Fast X, no more of this part 1 shit."
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What did you think of, like, Fast X? I mean, I've obviously seen your stuff, but I've lost a lot of faith in that franchise, man.
It's funny. I was somebody that way back when it was not cool to be a Fast fan, I was a Fast fan. Nobody really
Yeah,
jumped onto that until the 5th one, and all of a
that's
sudden that
right.
was the franchise to be in, and, so I
That's
was the
right.
one getting made fun of for going to see Too Fast, Too Furious opening weekend. But, I've enjoyed that whole franchise up until Paul Walker passed away. After that,
Yes.
to me,
7.
it felt like the story's done. It felt like there's no reason to go back. It's not gonna feel right, and obviously
Yeah.
money talked because it made over $1 billion, and they were like, "Well, we ain't stopping." And so,
Yeah.
every movie after Paul died has felt a bit empty to me, and it feels like not only is he a big missing piece of it that they're never going to be able to fix, but Vin Diesel's
Mhm.
character or his ego or a mixture of the two has just gotten so huge throughout the last 2 or 3 of them to where he's basically a superhero that it
He
turns me
is.
off. And,
Right.
there's no stakes to it
Right.
because he can survive anything. All of these characters can
Yeah, they
survive
can go to
anything, and
space.
even yeah, they can go to space, and even if they die, well, they'll just be back in the next one. I mean, every character except for the kid that got shot at the end of the first one, that poor bastard apparently hasn't gotten his contract renewed. Every character that has died
That's
in this
right.
franchise has come back. So Fast X, I
Yeah.
mean, I had a lot of fun with Jason Momoa. He carried the movie for me. He was kind of the shining
Yeah.
light there. But it's ridiculous. I mean, you know what you're getting into with those movies, but it's just it's junk food. You go there to watch things explode
Yeah.
and watch cars do ridiculous things, and it was so artificially epic to the point where you're like, this is ridiculous that this is even half of a story. There's not even any story being told. Like, so you get to the
Yeah.
end of it and it's just like, oh yeah, I'm sure all these characters are dying and in peril somewhere. We'll see every single one of them in the next movie.
Exactly, man. I absolutely
Mhm.
agree with that. Now, real quick too, and of course, I got a couple questions, but let me jump to the chat here too, because we've got some comments and a couple of questions here. And my good buddy Steven's in the chat from Craven Something Scary. What's up, brother? Good to see you. Saying, hey
Good
man,
name.
and welcome to Cody.
Mhm.
It's a great name, isn't it? I
Yeah,
mean,
copyright it.
seriously, the first time I met him, yeah, I know, right? He's one of my best friends, and I've said to him before, it's like, man, the name just works. It just works. I love
Mhm.
saying it. I probably love saying it more than he does.
Yep.
But no, we're good buddies, so I'm glad he's here. Um, we got my man, the Shape in the Shadows, coming in with a $5 super chat. Thanks so much, brother. Love you. Hope you're doing well. Saying Cody said Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's a great film, and after rewatching it, I have to agree with him. Keep up the great work. Love your channel.
And with
All
that one
right.
comment, 3/4 of the chat now hates me.
Hey, look, man. I'm gonna tell you what, and I've talked a lot of Halloween, especially
Mhm.
in the last whatever it's been, year and a half. So the roller coaster is always there. And I've talked about Rob Zombie and I've talked about ends and all that type of stuff. But I will say this, and I'm sure you know about this too. There was so much stuff going on behind the scenes of the Rob Zombie Halloween film. And then, of course, not even wanting to do the second film and just a lot of studio interference and so forth.
He
That
said, "I'll
being
do the
said,
second one if you let me out of the contract to do the third one."
yes, yes, is that crazy shit? It's like,
Mhm.
wow, that's absolutely crazy. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not my favorite in the franchise, but there are things in it that I can appreciate. And also, if looking at it just as a straight horror film, a slasher film, the brutality, the kills, and all of that, it's all there. It's
Mhm.
absolutely all there. Am I a big fan of Hobo Myers? A lot of these guys that follow me, they know I'm not, but hey, it is what it is. It's not resurrection,
Yeah. Well, what I
resurrection,
like about it is that
you know.
it's very unique because I love the Halloween franchise. I get a lot of shit from the fans sometimes, but I do love the franchise. But it's a very
Mhm.
monotonous franchise. It's kind of a one trick pony for
Oh yeah,
most of the franchise. So I at least like the fact
absolutely.
that Rob Zombie's second movie, he just goes all out and makes a straight up Rob Zombie movie that just happens to have Michael Myers in it. And I'm not typically a Rob Zombie
Yes.
fan as far as his movies, but it has its issues.
Mhm.
The white horse stuff can go to hell. The Hobo Myers is
That's
certainly
right.
riding the line of really going out there to be unique and pissing off your fan base. It's not the strongest collection of performances, but I just
That's
like how
right.
unique it is. I like how bold it is, and I like that it at least felt like the shackles were taken off of him for this one, where the first one felt very boxed in. You got to have this, you got to hit these beats, and really the only like
Right.
hardcore Rob Zombie element of that movie is the dialogue, which ugh.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, it just got so just like, it's like such a bummer, man. Although I will say I loved Brad Dourif in it. I think he
Oh
had,
yeah.
especially near the end, great, great dramatic scene, and obviously Danielle
Mm.
Harris as well. It's funny because I felt myself, and I thought Scout was great with what she was given to do. The
Mhm.
choices they made for Laurie Strode. She was great. I mean, as far as the range of emotion, I loved it. But I was more invested in like Annie, Danielle Harris, and it might be partly because she was a little bit more positive and not so like, just like, "Rrr, I hate everything. I
Really
hate the
rough.
world. I hate
Mhm.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hell
I'm
yeah.
with you.
Yeah. Um, yeah, man. In the chat, we got my man Dino coming in. What's up, Dino? Good to see you, brother. Saying, OMG, I am a huge fan. Have a great stream. Thank you so much, man. We've got a lot of people here that are big fans of yours, Cody. So very,
Awesome.
very cool stuff, man. Jennifer coming in. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Much appreciated. Saying showing some love to two to two amazing YouTubers. Thanks for all you two do. Just saw Cobweb based on your recommendation, Cody. It was good. Yeah,
Awesome. I'm
Cobweb
glad you liked
was
it.
pretty good, man. It took me by surprise. I was really impressed with it.
Yeah, I was too
One of
because
those
they
movies
didn't
that kind of comes
advertise
out.
it. It came out on a weird weekend where I think it was the Oppenheimer Barbie weekend, if I'm not mistaken. So it just felt like the one movie nobody cared about that came out. And I
Hmm.
was lucky enough to get a screener for it because it wasn't playing anywhere within 2 hours of me. And I was really
Wow.
surprised. I was like, "This is really fucking good. Like, why would you not release this in October? That's ridiculous." And so,
Yes.
it rushes the ending a little bit. I will say that. That's something that I thought, and I've seen a lot of people call out. But as a horror movie, it's probably the most underrated one so far this year for me.
Yeah, I definitely could agree with that. I mean, that kitchen scene alone
Mhm.
was just great with all the characters there and just, with the substitute teacher that came in and is trying to figure out what's going on with this family and just the dialogue and the way that all the actors, were just so it was intense, and
Mhm.
even though nothing happened, which really is a credit to their
Yeah.
performance to me. Yeah, it was a really surprisingly good movie. I was really happy that I came upon it and was able to see it.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. We also got my man Anthony's in the chat, the child of the corn. $10 super chat. Thank you so much, brother. Saying, what's good, fellas? Cody, I dig your love for the Child's Play franchise.
Yeah.
Which entry do you feel is the most underrated? I'd say Child's Play 3. Also, are you stoked for Eli Roth's Thanksgiving slasher?
Awesome. Yeah. Love the Chucky fans. Love the Child's Play franchise. For anybody that's not familiar with me, Freddy and Chucky are my two big ones.
Hmm.
I would agree with you. Child's Play 3. That one is the one that got me into horror. That's always been one of my favorite installments. And
Mm,
it always shocks me to see that at the bottom of people's rankings, especially when Seed of Chucky exists. But nonetheless,
right.
everybody's got their own taste. But I've never seen the movie that a lot of people see when they talk about how garbage Child's Play 3 is. To me, it's got a lot of the same things going for it that Child's Play 2 did. It just Child's Play 2 got there first. And
Right.
one of the more popular digs against it is, well, it just does the same thing as the first two. It's like, have you seen the Halloween movies, the Friday the
That's
13th
right.
movies? They all do that shit.
That's right.
So yeah, I agree with you. As far as Thanksgiving, I'm curious about it. I'm a little bummed that they didn't stick with the very grindhouse, like film grain, dark look that they
Yeah.
had. I kind of wanted that
Yeah.
aesthetic to have that old school, like that VHS that was like hidden underneath the shelf of Blockbuster kind of feel.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
I'm just hoping it's a good little holiday slasher. There's not too many Thanksgiving horror movies that I'm a fan of, so hopefully this
Right.
will be one.
I absolutely agree. I hope it's going to be good. But I also, when I saw the trailer, I was thinking, what happened to that grimy grindhouse
Hmm.
look from the trailer? Because that was one of the trailers that really stood out to me,
Hmm.
when I was watching, Planet Terror and Death Proof, So we'll see. We'll see. Um, man, thank you so much for that super chat, man. We appreciate it. And holy moly, man, Polar, good Lord,
Oh
coming
wow.
in. $50 super chat. Polar, thank you so much. You're so supportive. Seriously, it's unbelievable. Saying I am in absolute awe getting to hear two of my favorite YouTubers come together. Thank you so much for always putting out amazing and honest content. You both are top tier in my rankings.
Thank
Wow.
you.
Thank you. Jeez, that's crazy. She's absolutely so sweet. She's been so excited to have you here tonight and hear from you. It's really, really cool. And I love being able to talk to other folks in the community, other content creators and stuff too, man. So thank you,
Hmm.
Polar. Really appreciate you. Seriously.
Very cool.
Let's see. Ty coming in saying John Wick 4 is one of my favorites this year. Felt like so long ago. It
I'm
does
telling
feel
you.
like it was a long time ago. Holy shit, you're
It
right.
does. I've had a couple people
Wow.
mention movies from January and February. I was like, "That was this year?" Oh, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, Wick 4. I love the Wick films. You know, I'm a huge Keanu Reeves fan. I'm a
Hmm.
huge fan of anything action that has even an inkling of martial arts in it, because I teach martial arts.
Hmm.
And you know, Wick has all these great elements with the gunplay and you know the martial arts, the hitman, the mythology, the universe they created. Here's a question, and we know what Keanu Reeves has said, and we know Father Time is undefeated. But if you were to take a guess, do you think there's going to be a John Wick 5?
Money talks. I
That's
mean,
true.
for me, I felt like John Wick 4 was a good place to end it. I feel
Yes.
like it was a satisfying ending to his narrative. I've heard him say like he wants to be done because those movies just put him through the ringer, and I can only imagine.
Mhm.
But money
Yeah.
talks. I mean, you give 2 or 3 years, and they back up that truck full of money to Keanu Reeves' lawn, and you'll have a fifth one in a heartbeat. So,
That's right. You're the beeping. Beep, beep,
mhm.
beep, beep. I know, man. It's like the stuff that he does, man, and he's so physical in these movies.
Mhm.
You know, I remember hearing, I don't know if it might have been with Wick too, that they were saying, you know, he was so good with his action scenes. Like he was at the level pretty much of a stunt guy, you know, as far as just all the training he did and working with the stunt performers and stuff like that. So,
Mhm.
but man, I don't know. I don't want to see him get like get hurt or see the action
Yeah.
dip, you know, because I mean, looked like they put everything into 4. It was absolutely crazy the stuff they were doing in 4.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's gonna be diminishing returns because I felt like, you watch the second one, you're like, "How are you gonna top this?" And then you see the action scenes in 3, and you're like, "How are you gonna top this?" And then you see the
That's
4th
right.
one, and you're like, "Okay, where's the ceiling?" And so you don't
Yes,
wanna keep going to where suddenly you're being derivative or you're not as cool. You don't wanna come back and ruin the legacy of ending on a movie that a lot of people loved, and that's
that's
the
right.
tricky part with it. I respect whenever a studio or a director or whoever has the creative control says, "We're good. We're done. We told our
That's
story.
right.
We're out."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I think the 4 movies, I love all 4 movies, man, and it's really tight as far as ranking them, and I would
Yeah.
hate to see them, you know, go to a 5th movie and all of a sudden it's kinda like, "Okay, looks like they shouldn't have done that," you know, and so
Mhm.
I would rather it just stop now as well, because I think, and granted, I know each time, like you said, we say, "Well, what else can they do?" I'm sure they could think of some other stuff, but yeah, you know, I think we should stop while we're ahead. We've told a really good story, and this one ended in a way where it's like it makes sense. You
Mhm.
know, he wanted to be back with his wife, and presumably that's what happened. So,
Exactly.
um, now getting back to how your journey, you know, has been crafted and so forth. I mean, that was a really interesting um, deep dive. I didn't know a lot of that, and the fact that you were working and also doing your editing, like, bro. I mean, that's inspirational stuff, man. I'm not gonna lie. Hearing that, you know, to know that that was your beginnings, it's like, wow, man, you put in the time, bro. And
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I know a lot of content creators, they try to do that. I know I try my best to do that, but that's inspirational. Like literally on the job site doing your editing. Just want to say that, man. Um, but was there a point when you felt like you nailed down your style? I mean, I know you said once you started going to the Elm Street stuff, and I mean, but was there a sense of in your mind, if you remember, where you were like, okay, this is the path I'm going to take, and here's how I'm going to do it. You know, I know you're fairly regimented. You know, you got your calendar and schedule and stuff like that. Were
Mhm.
those things a part of it back then too, being that structured and like having those goals, short term and long term?
Not for the first few years. I mean, I always took it very seriously. I always kind of treated it as a job, even when it was early on, never
Hmm.
knowing if it was ever gonna go anywhere, but that's just kinda that's how I approach things that I'm passionate about most times. I would
Hmm.
say after the first few years, that's where I started to get really structured to where I saw that there was momentum, that there was potential to turn this into something, even if it's just a side job or a side income that I really just can have fun with. Even that would have
Hmm.
been enough for me. And that's when I started doing things like, mapping out somewhat the videos that I'm going to do, or trying to think ahead, or batch recording 3 or 4 videos on a weekend so I could edit throughout the week in case things get crazy, which, as you know, having kids can happen in a second.
Yep.
So that's kind of, I would say after by about year 3 when I really started to kind of look into it. I also have a buddy of mine, Sean Chandler, who started his channel within a couple of weeks of me, and we've been friends and kind of tracked each other's journey and gotten really close throughout this whole YouTube
Mm,
thing. And by the time he went full time, that was a big thing for me where I was like, wow, this guy who started the same couple of weeks as me has already got there.
mm,
That could be something one day. So that
mm.
was also kind of motivation for me. But it really wasn't
Nice.
as far as just knuckling down and really fine tuning everything. Like I'm always kind of trying to learn and adjust things and try new things. So I don't think I'll ever get templated. But I would say somewhere around the time when I started to realize that I had a certain style that not only that people could tell there was a distinct style, but also started to see people try to emulate. That's when I
Mhm.
started feeling like, okay, I must be doing something right. Where I used to do a lot of comedy skits for like the openings of my videos, and
Yes.
there was a lot of things that I did to try to stand out and not just be the 10 millionth talking head on the YouTube screen.
Right, right.
And after I went full time is when I really started to knuckle down at every month I plan out the month before, and
Mm,
really looking into analytics and all the job stuff of this. I didn't really dive into until it was literally a job. But
mm.
yeah.
Very, very cool stuff.
Mhm.
And also for you guys in the chat, for you guys that are popping in, just to say again, blanket hello to all of you guys. We're not able to get to everyone's comment, but glad to see you guys out there. Jamie, thank you for being here, and Melissa and CJ, Danielle, working hard in the chat, telling people to get the likes up. I love it. You guys are all right. Seriously, you guys are always just so supportive. You guys do the work. You do the work for us. Uh, we got. Oh, I love this name, Drunken Boxing. I love that. I'm a Jackie Chan fan, man. That's awesome. Saying is Street Fighter your favorite video game to film? Wow, I haven't seen Street Fighter in a long time,
No,
but
if
it's
that's directed towards me, but
yeah, it's directed towards you. Yeah, absolutely.
no, I haven't even seen Street Fighter since I was a kid, but no, that
Yeah,
there's not many video game adaptations I would gush over, but
yeah,
Last of Us is absolutely the top if we're gonna count TV.
yes,
Um, I
absolutely.
I have a lot of fun with some of the Resident Evil movies,
Hmm.
the old school Mortal Kombat, even the new Mortal Kombat I thought was pretty damn good. So
Yeah, there were a lot of people that kind of was shitting on that. I thought it was all right. It wasn't great,
didn't
but it
have
was
the
better than
tournament.
Mortal Kombat
So they were like,
Annihilation.
yeah, they didn't have the tournament, so everybody was like, "This sucks." I'm like, but but what they did was cool.
Right. It's like if they had done the tournament, people would have been like, "Well, it's the same thing they did in the first two."
Yeah.
Like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, really.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I always look at franchises like that. You're never going to please all, of the fans. So,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, Drunken Boxing, it's not my favorite either, but I will say when I saw it as a kid, I was geeking out in the theater with my buddies because we were sitting there like, "Oh man, it's Street Fighter. There's Ken and Ryu." And yeah, it was fun back then. And I'm a Van Damme fan. I used to love Van Damme movies, especially when I was younger. So,
Oh, yeah.
um, yeah, I was huge into the Van Damme films and just anything action oriented. I was just eating it up back then, along with horror, of course. But
Mhm.
yeah. Um, Sarah's coming in. Thank you so much, Sarah. Much appreciated. Saying thoughts on Wick versus the Equalizer. Even though the first John Wick is my favorite across the bunch, I actually prefer Equalizer as a franchise. Ooh,
Interesting.
nice. Yeah.
I mean
Wow.
I mean, they're all good.
Mhm.
All 7 of those movies as a collective, I think are all, at worst, they're solid. So,
Yeah.
I much prefer John Wick. I think there's just a lot more going on. I think that they're a lot more interesting inherently, but The Equalizer are just a really good throwback action franchise that I've enjoyed all 3 of them.
Yeah. No, I agree. And of course, Denzel, he adds that little bit of flair,
Mhm.
in those films, which I really, really dig. My dad is a huge, he's a huge fan of the Equalizer films, and he's always, when the new one was coming out, he said, "Is that Equalizer 3 out yet? Is it out yet?" I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, it's out. I gotta see that. I gotta see that." I'm like, "Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do." Like, my dad loves that shit. So, Good question though, Sarah. I also, if I was to answer it, would say I would, um, I would err more towards Wick as well, because there's just, there's more going on. Although the Equalizer films, they've got great moments. They're a little bit, the slower moments pop, a
Yeah.
little bit more in those films. So it might even depend on my mood as far
Hmm.
as if I'd pick one or the other. But I love them. I love them both franchises. Um, Anthony coming in again with a great question here saying, Cody, are you a Giallo fan? And if so, do you have a favorite Giallo film?
I'm not so much, but I haven't watched enough of them to really give it a fair shake. I was a part of a Facebook group
Mhm.
years ago that there was a time where like Giallo films were like the flavor of the month, and suddenly everybody out
Mhm.
of nowhere was just like, "These are the greatest movies ever. This is the best." And so I was like really intrigued, like, "What is this?" And so I kind of took a dive into it. I watched Suspiria first, which is the
Mm.
only Giallo film that I've seen that I actually really liked. I
Mhm.
watched Tenebrae, which I hated, and then I watched The
Really?
Beyond. Yeah, it was not for me. I watched The
Mhm.
Beyond, and it took me 5 times to get through it because I kept falling asleep. So I kind of had a raw deal for my intro to Giallo, and I have not gone back quite yet. I
Yeah.
have a number of them on those shelves over there that I need to check out, but yeah, I just, I
Oh,
had a rough little intro to it, so I wouldn't say I
wow.
dislike them. I just haven't
Mhm.
haven't given it a fair enough shot yet.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely an acquired taste. There's no doubt about that. And I kind of got into Giallos a little late, other than stuff like Suspiria, because I saw that when I was a kid. Didn't really
Mhm,
remember it much. But I've gotten into a lot of them in the last several years, and we talk about slashers and giallos on Monday nights for a live stream series that we do. But I will say, um, Tenebrae, I really, and again, it's a mood thing too. But Tenebrae, I really enjoyed. It was just kind of like, for me, anyways. Giallos, if you're talking about Argento, or if you're talking about Fulci, and all these great directors, especially from back in the day, like, the movies don't make a lot of sense per se.
mhm.
It's like more about like a feeling, at least in
Yeah.
my estimation. Like, and so that being said, you have to kind of approach it a certain way. And like some people, it's just not going to work. And I've heard that from a lot of friends and other people that, I really, that I know that they know their shit. But The Beyond is a trip, man. It is batshit crazy. It is all atmosphere. It makes no sense. I've
Mhm.
seen that movie a bunch of times. I do enjoy it, but yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. So I could totally see why that was a rough one for you,
Yeah.
being the middle chapter of Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. Um, and we got my man Eric. Oh, geez, I knew he'd do it. Eric saying, "See, Zombies H2 is great. Been saying it for years. Hashtag Team Hobo Myers." No, Eric. No, no, no. Look. I get it. It was nice to do something different, but I've just never been a big fan. Oh, he's poking fun at me. That's what he's doing.
Mhm.
I've never been a big fan of Hobo Myers. Speaking of which, to kind of switch franchises, because Eric, my good buddy, he's my good buddy Eric, is a big Friday 13th fan, as am I. That was the first horror film I ever saw. What are your thoughts in general on the franchise, and specifically, what do you think about Jason Goes to Hell?
Friday the 13th has never been one of my favorite franchises. If I'm in the mood for it, they can
Hmm.
be entertaining. I really only love the remake and part 4. Those are the
Ooh,
only 2 that I would say are like, if I'm going to an island with a collection of horror films, I'll be sure to grab those.
yeah.
It's a very low-hanging fruit slasher franchise. I didn't grow up with them. I feel like it's one of those franchises you kinda need a little bit of nostalgia to really appreciate them.
Mhm.
And as far as Jason Goes to Hell, I'm actually a bigger fan of that than most people, being a very casual Friday the 13th fan. Because for me, when you watch those movies, it's like eating the same meal 3 times a day for a week until you get to Jason Goes to Hell, and then all
Right,
of a
right.
sudden, it's so batshit weird and insane and has no business being in the franchise whatsoever that it's kind of entertaining because it's something different, it's a different flavor.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
understand 100% why hardcore fans despise it for all the weird, wacky shit that it does, but I
Hell
have fun
yeah.
with it.
Hell yeah, I will say that Eric is one of the few people that has gotten me to look at Jason Goes to Hell in a little bit of a different light. Because for me,
Mhm.
it is so batshit crazy, and some of the decisions that they made, I was kind of like, well, wait a minute, why? But that's neither here nor there. But Eric, thank you so much for that, man. I appreciate you, man. And for the rest of you guys coming in, Jerry, I see you. Thanks for you guys coming in. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us for a little bit. Danielle saying that Cult of Chucky is underrated. Wow. I don't know. Well, it was okay.
I'm not personally a fan of it, but
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. And you being a big Child's Play fan, that says a lot too. So,
Well, it's one of those weirder chapters. Ever since Seed of Chucky, we're on this pattern where Don Mancini took over at Seed, and you get like a really weird, wacky movie, and then you get a fairly serious movie that harkens back to the earlier films, and then you get a really
right.
wacky movie, which was Cult. And then now
Yeah.
in the TV series, they've kept it the same, where season one was fairly serious and throwback, season two was batshit, season three so far is fairly grounded. And so it's
Mhm.
this that's the really Mancini chapter is as the Cult of
Mm.
Chucky, where you got multiple Chuckies and all kinds of craziness.
It's some crazy shit, man. Uh, let's see. Jason was saying for both of you, and Cody, I'll let you answer this first, of course. Is there a classic movie you would like to review, but you haven't yet? That's a good question, man.
A ton of them. I can't think of one specifically, but
Mm,
I have to be in the mood to review something. Otherwise, I feel like I do it a disservice. So that's why there's a lot of classics. There's a lot of like, how have you not reviewed that kind of movies to where I just haven't really had that itch yet. You know, I like getting a
mm,
bug up my ass where I'm just like, ooh, I want to talk about this today. And that's that I can dump all my passion in the video and be excited about it versus if it's just something I wrote on my calendar and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm reviewing Hostel today.
right, right, right. I feel the
Mhm.
same exact way. There's some films that, and my good buddy Jason, he's like waiting for me to talk about the Rocky movies because Rocky's my favorite movie character. Like, period. It's just not even a question. But I've
Mhm.
held off from talking about it because part of it is because I wanna you just like you say, you wanna have the right feeling for it, I wanna be in the mood, not that I'm not in the mood, but I just want it to be what I want it to be, and that's why I've been holding off on it, but I know exactly what you mean, though.
Mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now real quick too, can you take us to the point where, if you're able to, where you decided to go full time? You're talking about how Sean gave you some inspiration and so forth, which I think that's awesome. I think Sean's a really great content creator too.
Mhm.
And I never knew that about you as far as you getting. It's always good to hear that even really successful content creators pull inspiration from other content creators. But when you decided to go full time, can you give us a sense of what that was like, your emotions and maybe reservations and maybe the things that worked initially and maybe things that didn't work?
Yeah, it was kind of terrifying. So I was working at a company that we built business aircraft. So essentially, I was doing wiring for planes, and it was like year three, three and a half, something like that. And it was a job. Like every job that I've ever been at, I dump my heart and my soul into it. I try to be a top performer. I want to rise through the ranks. I want to,
Mhm.
and almost without exception, every place that I've worked at in one way or another has taken advantage of that or devalued it or just I feel like I was not valued for as much work and as much passion as I was putting into it. And this was like the
Mhm.
worst example of that where it was a job that they damn near wanted you to dedicate your life to work. Like your family
Mm.
no longer exists, your sleep schedule no longer exists. Everything outside of these walls is not important. It's about you building this and we don't care what you have to do it. Which was
Mm.
fine for a while whenever you're trying to prove yourself. After a while, it just started to get really miserable. And so the
Mm.
last year or so that I worked there, it was a job that just I would go to bed depressed and wake up angry that I had to
Wow.
go the next day. And after a while, like it started to bleed into my home life. Even when I wasn't at work, I was angry about work and I was stressed about work. And I was just like counting the minutes till I had to go back, almost like a
Mhm.
prison sentence.
Mm.
And so it got so bad that my wife more or less was like, "You got to do something else. Like this just it's killing you slowly."
Yeah.
And I had always kind of knew in the back of my head that I needed to do something else, but it's always stressful and it's always really unappealing to leave a job that you've put so much time and effort into to go start anew somewhere else.
Exactly.
And so I was never that fond of the concept of going full time because YouTube is so unpredictable. The income is unpredictable. The viewership is unpredictable. At at any point, YouTube could just say, "We're no longer paying you for ad revenue. Thanks for the years. It's been awesome." And there's
Right.
nothing you can
Right.
do about it.
That's right.
There's always these new rules and regulations that affect monetization and what's monetizable and what gets your videos taken down, and they don't even hardly
Mhm.
explain them half the time. So there was so much unsure about it that I never felt comfortable putting my and my family's livelihood into that basket. But
Right.
my job got so bad to where I no longer really cared about that so much. So I was kind
Mhm.
of trying to figure out a way to pitch that to my wife. Like, how am I going to have this conversation of y in a certain way? I'm thinking about how my wife is gonna hear it, like, "So you wanna quit your job and play on the computer and talk about movies all day?" Like, that's what I expected to a certain degree, and so I'm sitting there, like, in for a couple of days, I'm trying to think of how to bring this up, and
Yeah.
I didn't even get a chance to because one day my wife's like, "Can you just put in your fucking notice and just do YouTube full time? Like, it's time." And I was like, "All right, if you say so." And so so as soon as she gave me her go ahead, there really wasn't any more reservation to me. I figured at worst, I'll give it a shot for a while. If it doesn't work out, I'll find another job. I've never had a trouble getting a job anywhere.
Mhm.
So literally the next morning, 5 a.m., show up to work. By 5:05, I pulled my manager into the office and told him I'm out. And
Nice.
so I came home and my plan was just to triple down on everything that I had already been doing that I knew was successful. So do at least a video a day, put more
Mhm.
time and effort into the editing, plan out your month ahead, try to see
Mhm.
as many movies as possible. And I've adjusted that. Sometimes it's not advantageous to do a video a day. Sometimes you want to let videos breathe for a while. Sometimes you want to spend a bit more time creating the next video instead of 24-hour turnaround. So I've had to
Right. Right.
learn over the past 2 years, but luckily, knock on wood, for the first 2 years, it's not only went well, it's actually went much better than I hoped it would have been. So
Nice, nice. Man, I can only imagine, just like I said, how scary, that is. Maybe to some degree freeing as well, but
mhm.
definitely scary. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
it's like, wow,
Yeah, I
crazy
mean,
stuff,
it's
man.
nice to be able to make my own schedule, work when I wanna work. If I'm bored in the middle of the day or if I can't sleep at night, I can go get work done. There's no clock to punch. But,
Right.
yeah, it was definitely it was scary for the first time in my life not having a consistent income with a consistent
Mhm.
dollar amount and the benefits that come along
Right.
with all of that, so
Yeah, absolutely. I can only imagine, man. I can only
mhm.
imagine. Jason coming in again saying, and thank you for the super chat, bro. Saying, Cody, will you be reviewing the Planet of the Apes series?
Never say never. I don't have any plans to do that anytime soon. I know they've been talking about doing a reboot. I don't know if it's a
Mm.
following of the last trilogy that we had or not, but I
Mhm.
did a ranking when War for the Planet of the Apes came out, and that's the only time I've kind of given my thoughts on all of them. I love
Mhm.
the most recent trilogy. The older movies, they're a little old for me. I can appreciate them, um,
Right.
but no plans for like a review series anytime soon.
Okay. Yeah, I think the trilogy, the newest trilogy, I absolutely love it, man. It
Hmm.
was, we talked about it a while back now, but it was just cool, and Andy Serkis, his work, the motion capture work he did as Caesar was just unbelievable stuff,
Oh yeah.
man. The stuff that he obviously, as Gollum and Lord of the Rings and so forth stuff too. But I really do enjoy that trilogy. I'm a little nervous to see what they're going to do now, because it's, again, just like we were talking about with Wick. Sometimes you just want to stop while you're ahead. Give it a couple decades, and then if you want to come back, that's fine. Like this new trilogy, it was a long gap between this. Well, you have the Tim Burton one, but I don't know if I count that one. There was a long gap between the Charlton Heston original and this new trilogy. So very cool. Thanks a lot, Jason. I appreciate that. That was a great question, man. Drunken Boxing, still love that name, man. Coming in with a super chat saying the Banshees of Inisherin thoughts. I haven't seen that.
I liked it. I saw it at Fantastic Fest last year. It's not quite my type of movie. I like
Mhm.
McDonough's movies. That's the guy that did In Bruges and Seven
Mhm.
Psychopaths and Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I like all
Yes.
three of those movies significantly more than Banshees, but Banshees is kind of a quieter movie. You know,
Mm.
it's more just kind of the Irish landscape and having these powerful performances, and it's a very quiet, subtle kind of movie, except
Mhm.
for when
Mhm.
fingers are getting thrown at doors. That's the only unsubtle part. But yeah,
Ooh.
very well done. When I saw it, I was like, "This is going to be the movie people are going to be talking about at Oscar season," obviously. But it's
Mhm.
not my type of movie. I would never rewatch it.
Nice, nice. My these guys are messing with me so much. My good buddy Eric from the Bearded Entertainment, we call him
I've
the
started a
mayor.
movement.
You have, bro. It's like he's like Rob Zombie H2 for life. Hobo Myers for the win. I don't know about that, brother, but no, it's cool shit. It's cool shit. You guys are so funny. They love messing with me.
Mhm.
Uh Dice is in the chat. What's up, Dice? And says, what? Blood Rage isn't a favorite for Thanksgiving? Blood Rage is such a cheesy movie. Oh my god. It's fun though. It's fun. We talked about it and holy crap. Super cheesy. Super cheesy shit. Um Anthony coming back in saying, Cody, do you have a favorite piece of physical media? Ooh.
Um, You know, for not being the biggest Friday the 13th fan, that Scream Factory, box set that came out last year or the year before, it's hard to beat that one. That was, like, the most
Yeah.
love and care I've ever seen get put into a franchise, to where I'm, like, eternally jealous as a Freddy fan. All we have is that shitty little one box from, like, 2004. That's all we've
Yes.
gotten.
Yes. Yes. That is so true, man. It's funny because that's absolutely my favorite
Mhm,
piece of physical media. And when that thing came out, I don't have it right in front of me, but I'm looking at it. But when that thing came out, man, I was like, oh,
mhm.
like holy grail shit. And you're right. They put so much care into it. It's such a great box set. And it's a shame. It's a travesty that Nightmare does not have anything along the lines of that. It's
If
absolutely
I
crazy.
think it's the only franchise that Scream Factory hasn't done some kind of a set with. Like, Child's Play's had a number of steel books and a couple different box sets. I mean, they've got Critters, for Christ's sake, but we can't get
Right.
Freddy.
I
Somebody
know,
needs to
I know.
sign the contracts and let's get it going.
I will say this though, and Anthony, thank you so much for that because that's gonna take me down a rabbit hole too. Um, have you ever seen the Nightmare, documentary Never Sleep Again?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm,
I love that. I love that, and I think that maybe other than Crystal Lake Memories, um, yeah, either one of those I could say is, top tier for me, but they're both great. But,
mhm,
you're right, man. They need to do something with Nightmare. They really, really do. It's a shame that we don't have that Holy Grail box set for Nightmare like we do with Friday or even Halloween. I mean, Halloween even had a nice little box set that they put out. It's
mhm,
like, what the hell's going on with Freddy? It's like it's almost like people forgot how good that franchise is. I mean, yeah, we've got a couple of down moments, but I love the Nightmare series. I love that franchise. It's one of the big three for me. So
mhm.
wow, it's crazy shit. Now as we get ready to wind down here, and for you guys in the chat, we'll try to get to any more questions, but we may not be able to because I want to make sure that I respect Cody's time and get him out of here when we agreed that he would be getting out of here. But real quick, with horror movies in general, do you have or a memory of the last horror movie that absolutely just blew your mind as far as just your experience or the love for it, whatever it may be? Does there a movie that comes to your mind like that?
Well, I had 2 last year. I had X and Barbarian that I just
Wow.
didn't really
Okay.
have much expectation for and walked out like, "I gotta tell the nearest person that I can find about this movie." Like X for me was mostly because it was A24, and up to this point, I've had a very spotty relationship with A24. They always look interesting. I feel like they market their films amazingly, and then I usually walk in and it's just really slow and pretentious and
Mm,
kind of abstract. For, not always, but for the most part. And so
mhm.
I was, X. I've seen a couple of people advertise and talking about it. I'm like, well, that's A24. How good is it going to be? And I walked
Right,
in
right.
and I loved it. It was just an old school dirty slasher movie, and then they
Yes.
give you the tease that Pearl's coming, and I'm like, dude, what is this? And it's to the point where whenever we get Maxine, if Maxine is just almost as good as Pearl, that
Yeah.
to me is one of the greatest horror trilogies ever made. And
Mm,
so
mhm.
then not too long after that, we had Barbarian, and Barbarian was one of those movies that I had heard a little bit of buzz about, and so the fact that I heard a little bit of buzz, I didn't watch any trailers, I didn't read anything, I walked into it blind, which is what I try to do for most horror films nowadays, because
Yeah.
I feel like trailers they destroy horror more times than not, show you all the
Yeah,
best
they
parts,
do.
show you the twists, show you the third act. So I walked into Barbarian knowing nothing aside from Airbnb.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that was a movie to where, I've seen so many movies that it's hard to turn off my brain sometimes and not figure shit out too soon. So you've seen enough of them, you can start to see the breadcrumbs of that's probably going to go this direction. It's probably going to be a twist here, and this is going to be the reveal. And
Mhm,
sometimes that can really ruin your experience being too smart of a movie fan. And this
mhm.
was a movie where I felt like I was that person. I'm watching it and I'm like, he's probably a psycho. And then he's got like a little torture chamber, whatever. I could see this coming a mile away. What just happened? And then,
That's right.
that needle drop happens where that thing comes out of the dark. And then all of a sudden you're following Justin Long. And I'm like, oh, okay. After like another 15 minutes, okay, it's probably going to go this way. And he's going to go, what just happened? And so that was a movie where it was giving me this the entire time. Like, you're not smarter
Yes.
than our script. And
Right,
so
right.
I loved the fact that I got a movie that just took me for so many turns, and it was just batshit wild and weird and crazy. And so
Yeah.
those two for me were the last ones where it was just like, oh, this is why I'm a fan.
Great choices, man. And also, Sarah, thank you so much for putting Cody's link in the chat continuously tonight. Very, very cool. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Very, very cool. Um, but yeah, Barbarian was a roller coaster, man, because I had heard that it was a movie that I should check out, but I didn't know anything about it. Of course, I saw the trailer, and this was one of the few times when the trailer did not
Yeah.
give anything away, which I thought was amazing. We went to go see it, and man, like you said, when it happens, it's like, "What?" I could hear people in the audience like, "What the fuck is going on? What?" And it was and I love that, man. We need I know there's some people that had issues with it because it
Mhm.
did pivot. I loved it.
Me too.
But we need more of that, in films because it sucks when you get into a film, like you said, and you know what's gonna happen. And I try not to guess ahead of time, but sometimes you just can't help it. It's just
Oh yeah.
natural human instinct.
Yeah. I can't help it.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
wish I could. I wish there was a switch.
Right. It's like I can't turn it off. I can't turn it off. Um, let me ask you this too. One of the last questions I want to ask because this is great because we've talked about horror, which
Mhm.
obviously I know a lot of my particular audience is big into. I've been trying to throw this tagline out about watch more movies, and even outside of horror. And we got into some action, which I'm really glad we got into that. But the last thing is, how about with sci-fi? Do you have any sci-fi movies that you either hold dear? Or maybe some that you'd recommend or anything that's been newer in the last couple of years that really pops out to you?
I don't sci-fi is a little bit of a quieter genre nowadays, it feels like.
Yes.
I loved Dune, and I did not expect to because I haven't as wonderful as a director as Villeneuve is, none of his movies have ever really like been a movie that's instantly a favorite of mine.
Mm,
And so Dune just seemed out there to me. I never saw the original movie, never read the book. It was like, what is all
mhm.
this? There's sandworms and there's cults and what's going on? And I went to go see that and I was like, this is fucking cool. This is like a really cool world. There's a lot of lore here. There's so much to explore. And this is only half the story. So
Yeah.
Dune is the most recent sci-fi movie I could say that really blew me away. A lot of my favorites tend to be kind of crossover. They're sci-fi action, sci-fi horror, like
Yeah.
Alien and Aliens or Predator or, you know,
Mhm.
Event Horizon and things like that. Those are the ones that
Oh,
tend
I
to
love that one.
kind of be in my favorites more often. You know, my buddy Brian
Nice.
Lomax is really hardcore into the sci-fi, so he'd probably be yelling at me right now, like, "What about this? What about this?" But a lot of my favorites are the ones that are like the gateway drugs into other genres.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool, man. That's cool. And I love Event Horizon. And speaking of which, and Brian's really cool too, man. I love his
Mhm.
content too. Last thing I'll park on for a sec is just as far as the YouTube community, the content creator community, do you have any particular thoughts on it? Any, and it could be positive or negative. I mean, one thing about you, I will say that I appreciate is you just tell it like it is. You know, like when I watch your videos, I always feel like I'm getting 100% of what you really mean, and you're not just going off of a trend. Like you're brutally honest,
Mhm.
and that's refreshing. And there's been times I've said to myself, man, I got to get some more inspiration from someone like Cody because you just go right for it. Even when you end videos that you're talking about opinions, it's like he's so right. I love it. I love it. But as far as the YouTube community or the content creator community, um, are there any particular thoughts as far as whether it's positive or negative, how it is, or the camaraderie and all that type of stuff?
I mean, just like any circles, you got your good eggs, you got your bad eggs. There's a lot of people that luckily I've surrounded myself by that are really good friends and really good
Hmm.
collaborators. And, I have people that I've been really close friends with for years on YouTube, like my buddy Sean and CP and Brian, and even
Hmm.
newer friends like my buddy Rudy that I'm really close with. So you definitely find other content creators, other people that you kind of click with, and as long as they're good people and you're good people, everybody tries to kind of build each other up. I've never
Right.
really found myself, at least not anytime recently, to be surrounded by people that are out for themselves or trying to tear you down or anything. I mean, I've come
Mm-hmm.
across creators that I don't care too much for the way that they handle themselves, the way that they handle their channel, or the way that they interact with other people, but they're pretty easy just not to interact with. I had my
Right.
little stint on YouTube as far as drama and people wanting to take sides and create a war out of channels, and I'll
Yeah.
never go back to anything like that again. It's just about, having fun and having your passion for movies out there and clicking with good people and stuff. So that's
Mm.
kind of what I try to surround myself with. Now, one thing that I will say that continues to frustrate me, which is more so of an issue of channels that are like way above me,
Hmm.
is that I try to use what I've learned, use my successes and my failures, and help other people. Give them contacts or give them feedback. And so a lot of these up and coming channels that are smaller, that are newer, I always try, if I like them, if I like their channel and I like the creator themselves, I always try to kind of share the wealth a little bit. Bring them onto my channel or guest on theirs, or give them
Mm.
advice, or if I have a contact for a screener, try to give it to them because I know it was years before I had access to that stuff. And I wish
Yeah.
more people would do that, that are some of the more successful YouTubers, because I see a lot of people that are, you know, 300, 500,000, even up to a million. They kind of only take care of themselves at that point. And I just think that's disappointing.
Mm.
Like, I never forget, there was a tweet or something that I saw that kind of set me off one time. And kind of that one tweet is kind of what molded my entire outlook on this entire thing.
Hmm.
Was somebody, it was a very high profile channel, and they were asked, what's an underrated channel to you, like what's an underrated channel you want to recommend to your viewers? And they said dead meat. And I'm
Ah.
like dead meat.
Wow.
I'm like, look, dead meat's great. Dead meat's got 5 million subscribers. How the fuck is that underrated? Like, it's just so weird. They was such a stupid answer to me, where I'm like, you're helping the guy that doesn't need any help. Like, you could have said
Right.
Mr. Beast and sounded even dumber.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
so that frustrates me when you get to a certain, some people, not everybody, some people, when they get to a certain level, they only take care of that level. And at that
Yeah.
level, you don't really need any help. You don't need that. And so I
True.
always
True.
try to do the opposite. When people say, what's an underrated channel? I'm looking at those channels that have only been in existence for a couple years, that are only
Hmm.
10,000 subscribers, 20,000, 5,000, and I wish
Hmm.
more people would do that.
That's a great point, man. I mean, I think that first of all, and that's very, very cool. And obviously, you collab and you're out there. And even, I mean, I'll just be totally transparent with the audience. When I reached out to you and stuff, and you know, it was like, wow, this is awesome. You're able to have a conversation and everything. Not that I didn't think you'd be like that, because I knew how you were, but
Mhm.
when you actually have that communication with someone else and you were just easy to talk to and down to earth, and obviously able to come on here and hang out with us crazy people for a little bit. And I'm just like, man, that's absolutely so cool, because like you said, you had inspiration from other folks and so forth that helped you along the way. And the same is true for, a lot of other folks, myself and other people that are just starting a channel today or maybe within the last year or two. So I do think the community should be more like you described, and it's too bad that it's not.
Mhm.
It really is. I have fun collabing with other folks. It's fun. It gives me a different take on stuff, a different viewpoint, and the beauty of it is, especially we're lucky here, we have a really nice little community. I mean, there's some folks that I've been able to be friends with
Mhm.
these last couple years I've been doing YouTube that I wouldn't have become friends with otherwise. So it's like that's a cool thing. I mean, who doesn't need friends, and positivity in their life? I mean, it's a win-win. Plus, we're talking about fucking movies. I mean, it's like that's awesome because I don't get a chance to do that in real life with a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
of people.
same.
So
All
yeah,
my
man.
life as a kid, I would be the guy that would bring up movies, and everybody's like, "Dude, shut up. Stop talking about movies." So
I know. It's like people are like, okay, I get it. You like horror movies. Shut up. I'm like, okay, okay, all right, all right. So very cool stuff, man. Well, we're gonna get ready to end this up here. And for you guys in the chat, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. I see all of you guys. We weren't able to get to everyone, and I apologize. But I wanted to really just, get a chance to let Cody talk and just kind of giving his viewpoints. Um, and actually, we do have one other question coming in here, Cody, if you don't mind,
no, yeah.
just to throw
Um,
this to you.
mhm.
Jennifer saying, what's your favorite memory since starting YouTube? Or if it's easier, your favorite video or videos? Oh, wow. Okay.
I'll try to answer both. So my favorite videos, one that I always throw out just because I thought it was gonna be the greatest idea ever, and I put a ton of time and effort into it. It ended up bombing, but it's still a video that I just had so much fun making, and I still have fun if I revisit and watch it, was, I had an idea for something called Pitch Wars. This is back, like, year 2 or 3 of my channel, probably year 3,
Mhm.
and, the idea was to do a show where I bring on a guest, a collaborator, we have a topic, and we both write a movie pitch, and we deliver it, and then the audience votes on which one is the best in the comments, and eventually, it would have been a live show, but I didn't really have live capability at the time, internet issues
Mhm.
and things like that. And so I did it with a buddy of mine who is not really on YouTube anymore, Durbania, and we were doing a DC movie, and this was right after Batman v Superman came out. Justice League was around the corner, the one that was released to theaters, not Zack Snyder.
All
And
right.
so I did a Batman script, he did a Justice League script, and it's 3 hours of us just pitching our movie, and it's me getting really nerdy with my Batman knowledge and writing a movie script, which is stuff that I love to do. If I
Mhm.
ever made a movie, I would love to be the writer, like directing and acting, and you can give somebody else that. I just like to make the story.
Yeah.
And my buddy Durbin just has this infectious energy where he's like almost on the fly the entire time, just pitching his Justice League movie, and it's just like, dude, I want to watch that just because you're so excited.
Right,
So,
right, right.
so that's one that I always kind of value as one of my favorites. Um,
Mm.
as far as favorite memories since starting YouTube, I mean, it's hard to top getting the 100,000 subscribers and getting the little plaque or whatever, because that was the first year that I was full time. So it was like ultimate validation that I'm on the right path, that I'm doing something right. But
Mm.
I've had a lot of really good memories of just meeting people. It still blows my mind whenever I walk up to somebody, or somebody walks up to me, and just public, just out doing things, and they're like, "Oh my god,
Mhm.
I love your channel." I'm just like, that's so weird to me, So it doesn't. I'll never get used to it to where it's just crazy. I mean, I've had people recognize me at the grocery store. I had the guy that handed me my food at Taco Bell recognize me. Or my
Wow.
card bag. He's like, "I love your channel, by the way," and the window closes, and I was like, "What?" And then,
Wow.
that's been cool. Me and Sean, and even this last year, we had a bunch of other people too, like John Flickinger, and a few other channels did MegaCon and did a few panels to a few hundred people, and then you get to meet everybody, which was nice because you get to bask in the positive side of
Right.
all the YouTube interaction, all the people that genuinely like you and they enjoy your channel, they enjoy the effort, and they want to talk about movies and be cool, and all the trolling and all the assholes on the internet don't show up to those things, or they at least they don't have the balls to walk up to you and say it. So it's like a
Right.
reminder that that stuff is just noise and all of this is what it's about. So that's been really cool too.
Nice, man. That is really, really cool. Jennifer, that was a great question to end up on here. I really appreciate that. And it was great hearing that too, man. And May, thank you so much. Saying listening to Night and Cody's voice together is kind of ASMR. All right. That's
Velvet to
awesome.
get you through the night.
That was good, man. Oh man. Well, look, man. I'm just gonna have you hold on for a quick second while I play the 10-second outro.
Mhm.
But I just want to say this here live. Seriously, thank you so much for doing this. I hope at some point down the road we can bring you back because I had a list of questions, bro, and I
Mhm.
got like through only like a third of them, you know, because
I'll keep
these
going if
guys
you
have
want
been
to keep
great.
going, but I'll come back if you want to do a different one.
That would be awesome, man. I'd
Mhm.
really, really love it, seriously,
Mhm.
because you're so forthcoming and a
Mhm.
lot of knowledge, obviously. And I'm telling you right now, man, just listening to you as a host, not even someone in the audience watching this or listening, I'm all pumped up, man, as far as being inspired. It's like, yeah, you could conquer the world, and it's tough, man, because YouTube can really be, it can be a grind. It could
Yes, it
be a
can.
grind, man, seriously.
It never
But
stops.
anyways. Yeah, it never stops, bro. It never stops. I'm just so thankful I've been able to keep doing it and having fun. It's really
Mhm.
about having the fun. But thank you so much for being here. Seriously, for you guys in the live chat, we appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here. Leave some comments if you have questions for Cody. Definitely go over to his page. Make sure if you're not subscribed to his page, do so. I've got the link for his channel in the description of this video. And also, it's been in the live chat several times. Thank you to Sarah and Polar and you guys helping to moderate the live chat. It helped out a lot, man. We had a lot of people in here one time, and I couldn't keep up with the comments. So seriously, all of you guys that are regulars here, thank you so much for helping us out so that I also could enjoy this conversation with Cody. So, anyways, we will catch you guys later. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace out.